Hello and welcome to a new episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haigh and Nick Metcalf. Once again talking about the game we all love.
We are indeed talking about it from across the globe at the minute. Wuhan, Sweden, Australia, Sheffield as well. So plenty of that to come. But first things first, we've got a very special guest joining us.
There's so much going on, Phil, absolutely right. But the main focus of attention on this episode, as you flag up there, is as a guest who we are absolutely delighted to be joined by. Today's guest turned professional in 2010 and beat a number of the game's biggest names in his early years on tour, including then world champion Mark Selby in 2015. He qualified for the World Championship of the Crucible for the first time in 2018 and also played at the sport's grandest arena in the 2021 and 2022 tournaments. He has also twice reached ranking event quarterfinals. But after breaking his wrist last year, he found the 2023-24 campaign tough going and eventually dropped off tour after 14 consecutive years on it. Right now, he's looking to win back his professional status, and we are delighted he has taken time out of his schedule to talk to us about his life in snooker so far and his hopes for the future. Liam Highfield joins us on Talking Snooker. Liam, it's great to see you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Nick. Yeah, just got back from Sweden, so back to practice, straight back.
Well, we can see you in the club there. You're getting some practice in, and tell us about Sweden. I know it didn't end as you wanted, but what was the experience like over there as a whole?
Oh, Sweden, Stockholm was, a beautiful place. Maybe somewhere to look at for getting a full ranking event there. It's such a nice city. The Q Tours obviously is what it is. I think when you played at the level I played at for sort of a lot of years, it's tough to play in clubs again. But they do their best, and that's the way back on tour. So I just got to get my head down and do it.
Yeah, what are the conditions like? Is it sort of worlds apart from what you're used to?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's in clubs, so you never know what you're going to get with a table. But they go in there and recloth them sort of a couple of days before, I think. So you're always playing on a new cloth, which is it's definitely much better than the conditions I used to play in clubs as a junior growing up. So there's improvements there, but yeah, it is obviously a come down from tour conditions. I think everyone realizes that.
Yeah, I think that's shown when, Michael Holt had a season getting used to it, and then when he had a year getting used to it, he sort of cleaned up on that. So it's probably something to do with those kind of situations.
Yeah, the table's playing differently, just in an arena. Obviously, you're picking balls out for the opponent.
Yeah.
It's no refs in the early stages, so it sort of doesn't feel like a tournament I've been used to. It feels like a bit of a practice session in a suit, if you like. Sometimes I myself, this is to get back on tour, and you need to really get your head down. But it's not easy, but it's the same for everyone.
Yeah, and we saw Zhao Xintong win that, and he sort of dominated a lot of it. I mean, what was that? What's it been like seeing him back in from his ban? What's the feeling been like on the Q Tour with him back?
Do you know what? I don't really know a lot of the players on it, so I don't. I've not really mixed in sort of the circles. I tend to just go away with my mum, and we kind of do our own thing, just meals out and killing time or whatever. But good to see such a talent back, I suppose, and good to see him playing well. It's pretty impressive. I think it's his second tournament back, and to put in, he had 8 tons or something and win the tournament. So he's obviously been playing while he's been off.
Yeah,
and he made a maximum as well. And we'll talk about his performance later on when we come to more details about that Q Tour event. Obviously, you played Barry Pinches there, so the result didn't go your way. But there'll be plenty more chances, of course, for you in the months coming up. We're going to go take you down memory lane, Liam. But first of all, I know our listeners often like hearing about different clubs. Where are you this morning? We can see a club in the background there.
Yeah, so I play in a club called the Reardon in Stoke-on-Trent. I first moved here when I was it's about 10 years ago now. I was about 23, 24. I was citing the help of a guy called David Deeks, who helped Dave Harold and Jamie Cope in their careers. And he made massive improvements to my game, and the conditions were far better than what I was at previously. So it was a good move and a little bit of a turning point in my sort of career, I suppose.
What's your general practice like? Do you want to do it on your own? Do you do it with people, or is it all differ?
A bit of a mixture. I tend to play like sort of 5-6 days a week for sort of five hours or something like that. It's kind of half and half. Play people, work on my own, do different things, and yeah, been doing it such a long time. It's sort of about switching things up, I suppose, and just finding something new every now and again that really, ignites you, the sort of drive to come back in the club every day. I'm pretty dedicated, so I don't struggle in that way.
No, that makes sense. And obviously, reading some of your stuff, brilliant interview you did with Phil earlier this year, your love of the game shines through. I know you've had periods where you haven't always felt that, but right now you're saying you're loving it again. I mean, let's talk about that love from an early stage, maybe. How did you first discover this game then?
I remember watching the World Championship. I think it was the year that John Higgins won. It should have been like the late 90s. Just watching it, and I just got obsessed that year with it, as sort of kids do with Wimbledon or snooker or football, the World Cup or something like that. It was just one of them. It was 10 years older. I had a small table, a little kind of sit. You've heard the story probably of more or less every player where they've got a little table. And I just used to put it in the dining room and play, and eventually got to, my parents took me to a snooker club not too far away at the time, and just from then on just played, after school or just played every sort of minute I could, and just fell in love with it. And I think it suited me as a kid. I wasn't really a big mixer with people. I was quite so not a loner, but like it just suited me, a single sport. I think something I could do on my own. Just got obsessed. My obsessive nature, I think it suited, so it just carried on.
Well, I think a lot of snooker people, players, and fans will be nodding their head along at the line there about an obsessive nature, and that does often lend itself to this sport. I wonder what it was about the John Higgins win, because sometimes you'll hear a lot of Ronnie or different, but was it just I think that was 98, wasn't it? So maybe that's the age you were. You'd have been 7 or 8, wouldn't you? That's the first year you watched it. It just happened to be the first year, did it?
Yeah, that just happened to be the first year, and I can remember it in a way that I was watching. John Higgins was the first player that I took an interest in, and do you know what I think it was? It was his nickname at first. I thought, and I thought, and I just watched him throughout that tournament as. And it so happened to be like his first one.
And well, let me ask this now. Just jump in, but I don't think you really have a nickname, Snooker. Do you want one? Have you had one before?
I've got a lot. No, I don't know. It's something that it comes when it comes, doesn't it? I'm not chasing a nickname. I'm all right with Liam.
It's funny though, things like you said, like you can just catch on somehow. It can sort of help build a fan base.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you started playing and you said you quickly got really into it, how quickly did you think, God, I'm really good at this. This could be a job?
I think I dreamt quite big quite early, to be honest. With it, I made my first ton at, I think I was 11. So I was sort of, I did just want to be a professional snooker player. Right? I can't remember not thinking that, if you know what I mean. When people say sort of turning point was 14, 15, or I left school, I wanted to do it right from the start. As soon as I saw it, I was wanting to be where sort of, watching the Crucible, I wanted to be there. I wanted to be wherever it was. I went through school, all the junior tournaments and stuff, and it was, the only goal was to sort of be a professional snooker player. I can't remember wanting or thinking to do anything else.
And when you started playing those junior tournaments, what names would we recognize you were playing then? Or maybe someone who was doing really well then, they never got any further?
To be honest, my age group I think's a fairly strong one. Obviously, Judd's about, I think he's 2 years older than me. So Judd was the main name when of my sort of age bracket. He was out and out the best player by a mile, as sort of everyone knows as a junior. But there was a lot of good players. There's Jack Lazowski, Anthony McGill, Stuart Carrington, Mitchell Mann, Adam Duffy, Kyron. Was it Michael Wasley, I think, played at Crucible. He beat Ding at the Crucible one year. He was these were all, there was sort of 10. There was 10 really good players who all ended up turning professional at a pretty young age. I'd probably say all of us turned professional under the age of maybe 20, 21. So it's obviously Kyron and Judd have gone on to massive things, haven't they? But the rest of us have, been 64 players or thereabouts.
Yeah, done all right. Yeah, you often hear about Sam Craigy's brother being very good at that age. Is that right?
Yeah, I forget. Sam was obviously younger than me, but Stephen was my age, and he was a really good player. Really good. Along with Stuart Carrington was a really, really good junior. I don't think his name gets mentioned as a junior as much as people sort of say about Jack Lazowski or maybe Sam Craig or something. Stuart Carrington was like, I think, second to Judd as a kid.
Wow. And then you were on tour really early, weren't you? What age were you when you came through onto the professional ranks?
Yeah, I think 18 or 19. I think it was like 18 when I was sort of guaranteed on tour, because what happened was there was a thing called the PIOS. So it was basically the tour, the challenge tour. It's changed various names, hasn't it, over the years? But it was a thing called the PIOS, and it was a point system at the time. So that's it. Jack Lazowski beat me in the first event final, and I think I beat him in the second. And there was 2 events out of 8, and we were 1 and 2, obviously even, but we were guaranteed on tour already after 2 events of 8. So I think we were 18 at the time and then turned pro at 19. We had to sort of wait a year, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. What was Lazowski like then? Was it, how much did he push the boat out when he was that age, I wonder, on the table?
Yeah, but I think the difference is we all did, so we didn't notice it. So, it was like it was probably crazy snooker to watch as kids, because I think that was the difference. Judd was obviously still really aggressive, and he potted everything. He's just scored so heavy. He just, you'd be 1-0 in your best of 5 in your kids' comp, and he's off at 3-0 at and he's made 70, 800 or something. He's like half an hour. But Carrington was a very good all-round player. Carrington and McGill had more of an all-round game than I think any of us had as kids. But obviously there was, for instance, like Jack was more aggressive. He could take the game away from me. He still can today. So it's just different styles, isn't it? There's no right way, I don't think.
No, of course there's not. No, it's all that's different styles makes the game fascinating, of course. And well, I mean, you were kind of at a bit of a crossover point when you came on tour. That it was the time when sort of more events were being introduced. Generally, I think Barry Hearn had come into the game. Could you feel that, or I suppose you never know?
I just lost it there. Sorry.
Oh, not to worry, sir. I was just saying that you kind of came on at a crossover point, didn't you? More events were being introduced. Could you feel that excitement as a new pro?
Yeah, obviously it had gone from this. Barry Hearn, I think, was the year. My first year on tour was Barry Hearn's first year as the sort of game got taken over.
Right, that's it.
So, yeah, there was more events. Obviously, it went from 6 or 7 comps to sort of. There was still only maybe 8 major ranking events, but there was an introduction of the PTCs. There was 6 over Europe and 6 in England. And looking back, that was obviously a great decision, because obviously we've ended up with sort of 15, 20 full ranking events with lots of prize money. But at the time, the PTC probably weren't cost effective for the players, and it was tough. It was tough to make a living at snooker at that time. Probably the hardest time financially, I think, to play snooker for everybody.
And that makes sense. And the question I often ask: do you remember your first match on television?
I've got a feeling it was in a PTC in the Poland Classic in Germany, Firth, wasn't it? I think Art Williams, or 2 or 4-3. I think. I know matches on TV. I won. Sort of had a good little start on TV. Obviously, subsequently lost a good few as well. But I remember. I think playing on TV, a lot of people have a bit of a scared of it a little bit. Maybe it's because they go into it and it's all new, and you get a couple of beatings early on. It's sort of like becomes a massive hurdle to get over. I think I was obviously a little bit fortunate. Maybe the few top players that I played in my first 2 or 3 times on TV didn't play as well, and I sort of was really up for it, looking forward to it. So I got a couple of wins early, and it's something that's I've never understood the being scared of TV thing, to be honest.
Because there didn't seem that much difference to you, or you can't see anyone behind the screen that's watching, or what?
It was just something that as a kid that I thought that I wanted to play in, to be in, to be involved in, and sort of when I was there, I felt like that's all I ever wanted to do. So it wasn't going to be something that I got there and then went, oh no, I'm scared of this now. But I also got off to a couple of good wins, so that does help.
Yeah, that must be a great confidence boost. Beating Mark Williams early on the telly, you must have felt $1 million.
Yeah, especially at like 19, 20. He was one of the people who was like, you looked up to as a kid, sort of thing. He probably can't remember that, because to Mark, it probably would have been a minor PTC thing, playing a young kid. He's probably, I mean, he doesn't seem to care overly anyway, doesn't he? But I'm pretty sure that he didn't care much about that one. But yeah, for me, obviously a big thing at the time. And I went on to play Selby a couple of times early on TV. I beat him the first couple of times.
Well, you got Selby. You got Selby's number. Me and Phil were talking about this earlier. You've cracked the Selby code over the years, almost.
It's funny. Styles make a sort of match, and I've had this conversation about playing Selby before, because obviously he's got it over so many people, hasn't he? But the only thing is, I think sometimes when a younger player, really aggressive, does put it to, I'd like to see Judd and Mark have had great careers, haven't they? But I'd like to see their head to head, because I think Judd would be out and out clear. I don't know why, I just get that feeling.
Do you think that's the answer? Go out and attack him?
Yeah, because there's no point mixing it, is there? So obviously you can't be stupid, because he's a great scorer as well. But I think ultra aggressive and hope it's your day is the way.
So would you have tailored sort of game plans depending on who you're playing? Would you think about it for every opponent?
I think you have to. I think you do play the player a little bit. I know people say just concentrate on your own game, but there's different situations in a match. There's different opponents. There's different times of a frame, different score lines. That has to factor into a decision to make regarding a shot choice, I would say. I think, but some players just go out and play their game and hope that that's good enough. But I do think, I mean, I'm not saying I've got it right, the choices that I've made in shot selection by one shot, but I think there is an element of changing it up, yeah.
Do you think a lot of players, when they say their own game, are actually playing a player a bit, they just don't want to admit it?
Yeah. I don't know. There's no way they feel the same against every opponent. the line, if they say that. Who's in the other chair does matter, and the scoreline matters. Everything. You feel different if you're in the quarterfinals as you do in the first round. Sometimes you can feel more comfortable later in the tournament you can earlier. It's not doesn't mean to say that it's more pressure at a certain stage. It's how you're personally feeling.
Now, I was wondering, coming onto the tour at sort of 18, 19, and as you say, you were super dedicated from quite young. But obviously, just being 18, 19, there's more distractions in life. Was it hard to sort of focus on snooker, or were you, coming onto the professional circuit, was that an easy way to focus the mind?
Yeah, I was very dedicated, a very dedicated kid with snooker as well. I actually think I lost my way maybe in my later 20s more than I did in my earlier ones. Even though I did better on the table, maybe that's just getting a better player. But I was always very dedicated to snooker. Did make, I would go out a bit more, have a drink a bit more in my mid-20s than I would earlier. I didn't ever touch an alcoholic drink until I was 21.
Mm.
Yeah, I did have a few blowouts subsequently, but whether they have an effect on snooker, I don't know. I always practiced quite hard. I always ran a lot. I always tried to look after my health, which didn't look after me. But,
Yeah. Well, we were going to ask about that, of course. You've had all sorts of issues that you've been dealing with, which, we say this all the time. This game's hard enough without anything else to deal with. But I suppose it was especially, it sounded like a nightmare. If you could sort of talk us through that a bit.
Yeah, I remember speaking in the PTCs, actually, I remember going to a lot of European PTCs and just feeling exhausted and tired and not really knowing why. I spent sort of the early days as a pro sort of very exhausted, and I was doing all the right things. And then I got to, I think I was 24, in agony with my stomach. Just for 10 days, I was just crawling around the living room like pain. And I think I went to the doctors, and this is quite common with Crohn's disease, as it takes a long time to diagnose. I think I went back to the doctors or A&E or things 10 times before they eventually, obviously, I started to really show symptoms that were worrying. So I got taken in hospital and all the tests were done, and I spent that sort of particular flare up with the Crohn's lasted about 3 weeks, I think. There was a far worse one that was around the age of. I tell you when it was. It was the start of the season. I got to the Crucible. I was in hospital having blood transfusions. I was in there for like 5-6 weeks. Wow. And I missed about the first 4 tournaments that season. And I came back, and I think by the end of it, I got to the Crucible, which was a real it was sort of a personal nice moment to come back from that and end a season that was horrible. Obviously to debut there.
But really sorry to hear that. It must have been, so difficult at the time to sort of deal with. As Phil rightly said, snooker takes a back seat, doesn't it? When it comes to your bloody health.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, if you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything. It really is true. And all the times we've got a health, we don't sort of acknowledge it, do we? We just get up every day and we've got something else to moan about that isn't probably that important.
Yeah. Ali Carter's someone that comes to mind that's had Crohn's disease before. I wonder if you would have.
Yeah, we spoke
Ali, but
spoke a lot about. He rang me up when I was in the hospital, diagnosed with some advice and something that I was grateful for. And what a career he's had for somebody with poor just proves that if you just get up once more and you get knocked down, you can do great things. I think he's the best player not to win one of the Triple Crown events, and I think he's deserved of one sort of. I think he will win one.
Well, I couldn't believe he lost that final to Stuart at the Masters, and Stuart was just unbelievable. I mean, I was there that night, and sorry, it's a bit of a tangent, and I always remember Ali's face because I thought he's like I didn't do anything wrong, and I thought no, you didn't, mate. Actually, Stuart was unbelievable to go to the finish line that night. But anyway,
he's had the tough Triple Crown finals, hasn't he, Ali? Ronnie 3 times, Stu. He's not had one where you sort of there's not a 50-50 or slightly against him, but wish him luck.
But obviously, that's you've been diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and that's obviously incredibly tough in a physical sense. But I don't know if it's around the same sort of time, or similar sort of time. You've also had sort of mental health issues, haven't you? And that's mainly focused on OCD. I mean, you mentioned the obsessive nature earlier, but obviously, it's not a light-hearted thing. It's something very serious. That's something else you're dealing with, isn't it?
Yeah, that's been quite a lifelong thing that sort of I did open up last year because, I just think sometimes maybe it's important to open up. Maybe it's a selfish thing that I sort of open up for myself, if you like, that sort of just admit it and realize you've got it and get on with it. But I recognize when looking back, I recognize it as a child, but I also now see it as a bit of a positive that would I have really put this many hours in to get as good at something if I didn't have that? I don't think so. I don't know whether snooker players, we're not the most open of bunch of people. So behind closed doors, that there might be a lot of snooker players with OCDs or different things that is kind of a control fear type driven thing that drives you to go and put hours in it, a game that's just you can't perfect.
Well, I certainly recognise obsessive and addictive issues in my own life, and I'm absolutely fascinated to hear you say that sometimes they can be worked into your favour, because that's something that I've learned over the years. And one thing that comes to my mind is things like sort of the travel that I've done and things like that. And if I wasn't so addicted, maybe I hadn't done so much. And that's maybe a different thing, I know. But sometimes it's painted as a very negative thing. And there are big issues with obsession and addiction, and
Yeah.
it's very destructive. But you can. I know other guys in life that have become heavily into rowing or amazing fitness. They've got, and you can tailor those issues into something positive, eh?
Yeah, definitely. Just talking about like fitness there, I remember I went from like a runner who just plodded around at like 10, 11-minute miles to basically like running 6-minute miles. But that is just purely because of obsessive nature. I just decided. I mean, I was young at the time, so my legs could withstand 40 miles a week. But I just went out and did 40 miles a week, like proper runners do. And that's just being full blown into something that's in your head, really, isn't it? It's not that addictive nature of maybe finishing the run and that little buzz you get, you want it again. And yeah, if you don't channel it in the right ways, it goes down the route of alcohol, drugs, or whatever. So, you can have both ends of the spectrum with addiction. You can have good and bad, can't you? Like with everything. So I try to channel my into good ones. I've done pretty okay with that over the years, I think. But it's sort of the thing is with obsessive and addiction, you never get to it. You never get perfect, do you? You'll be chasing your tail your whole life, won't it? Like with trying to be perfect or trying to get to something. If I went, like if I went and did if I'd have had a career that had been amazing at snooker and I'd have won 5 world titles, someone would have gone, you could have won 6. Like, would you do, or you could have won 8? It's like you can never win really. So I think there's a place you can get to that's a little bit more contented than chasing everything.
That makes a lot of sense, and of course, people still say Ronnie's underachieved, don't they? Some people, so that kind of links into what you're saying. One more for me. Sorry, back to Phil in a moment. I was has anything changed since you said you've been more open? Have people chatted to you more? Have people said, "Oh, that's something that I've gone through"? Have people said they've learned from it? What's the difference between you having not said anything and now having sort of been more open?
I have had a player ask about it. Obviously, I won't name a name, but I have had a player say about it, and more players. Read the odd message on. I've not been a big one over social media over the years, but I'm on it at the minute. Yeah, so there has been a couple of little messages and things, which is good. Someone, it's like that saying, isn't it? Like a problem what is it, shared as a problem half sort of thing. Or so yeah, you have to speak. You have to also be careful of being too much the other way and thinking you're jumping on the bandwagon of everything. Everyone's got something, haven't they, these days? But it's a real thing, and I don't think you'd come out with it or express it if you hadn't got it. If you know, it's not really something that you would make up. So yeah, but there's a hashtag brigade at the minute.
No, but I mean, I suppose it's talking about is because it's interesting. You said admit it before, but it's not really something you admit. It's just something that you talk about as if
Yeah.
like we'll come to later, like you broke your wrist. It's part of health, whether it's mental or physical health.
That's it. Yeah. And there still is that slight stigma. I know over the years it's got better, but there still is that stigma of maybe you're a little bit weak. And actually you're probably stronger than a lot of people that you can deal with it and you can still be very functional. So I don't think it is a weakness. And maybe mental health, maybe people with mental health are stronger than people with, say, poor mental health who've come through it are stronger than people who've had no issues at all. But that's good that they've had no issues as well.
Yeah, of course. So where are you with you? I think you've spoken about you've learned to manage Crohn's. It's something that you learn to sort of deal with. I suppose a bit like the mental health. It's something you just find what works for you with.
Yeah, and the greatest things I think I have had therapy and stuff for OCD, but I always think the greatest things just come from yourself. Just them light bulb moments of a little saying you can create in your head, or just something that distracts you from that kind of spiral within yourself, like within your head. Just them little things that you have to keep repeating to yourself to be functional and be well.
Mm-hmm. So back to the table, as you sort of progressed over those years on tour, were you feeling like you were making progress? Were you enjoying it? Were you improving as you would like to have?
I never overly enjoyed traveling, which was always a bit of a struggle. I'm quite a home person. I love where I come from, and I just like I always can't wait to get home. But I also wait to play snooker, so it's like got to be away. I think a big turning point to my career was moving to this club, working with a guy who sadly passed away, David Deeks. He helped me, I think, become sort of. I wasn't like a basher, but I was a bit raw, if you like, and he helped me to iron out my game, a few flaws, and break build in a certain way that was more sort of efficient to do over a long period of time. I've become a far better player than I think my results suggested as well. Maybe that's a little bit on the mental side. Later on, I worked with Chris Henry purely on the mental side. Didn't do anything technically, no technical changes, and that's when I went from like a 64 player and I got up to about 39. So two people I think I worked with during as a professional that really helped.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you worked with some great people there for sure, and you're a marvelous guest, Liam. We have to say you're great value. We knew you would be, and well, we should say after about half an hour of this episode that you are listening to the Talking Snooker podcast with Phil Haigh and Nick Metcalf, and our brilliant guest Liam Highfield. So, Liam, Phil talks about you sort of moving sort of on in your career. I mean, what one event that looking through the record books that really sticks out to me is you beating Mark Selby and Stuart Bingham. You must have good memories of that. That was a Gdynia, and that was a European Tour event. And then you also reached your first ranking event, quarterfinal at the Indian Open in 2017. So you are making legitimate breakthroughs.
Yeah, it took a sort of long time coming. Couple of results. I always had this sort of knack to beat a top player. I don't know why. I had it throughout my career. Whether I just got up for it or there was less pressure on me, I don't know. But obviously beat Stewart, beat Mark. I've got a feeling that run in Gdynia kept me on the tour one year through the PTCs, like the top 8, I think. So there was a lot of pressure on their matches back then. Yeah, Indian Open. Indian Open was a funny one actually because I went there with a really bad neck. I don't know. I still have a bit of neck trouble now. It's just a common snooker player thing. And I went there almost. I'd qualified. I was almost going to just sort of collect me ranking points, collect me money, sort of thing, thinking I wasn't going to do much damage there. We're in a nice hotel, and I basically just chilled out the whole week. But I ended up just whipping my suit on and going to play a match. If you know what I mean. I hadn't played leading up to it because of the injury, and I played some really good stuff. It just shows that the rule book of practice and being so dedicated sometimes, when it's thrown out the window, when you expect a little less, you get a bit more.
That makes total sense. Yeah, we've heard that from a lot of players, haven't we, Phil, on here over the years? Some of those players sort of feel freed up and they're not expecting too much. Some of the top ones have said that. I remember Mark Allen getting to a final or winning something one time. He said, I didn't expect to do anything here. And you said it all week and he ended up doing really well. Great moment for you reaching the Crucible. And you mentioned that was at the end of a difficult season for you. So that's even more special. Had a look through qualifying. This is for the 2018 tournament. And you beat Chen Zhe, Tom Ford and Daniel Wells. You're beating good players there. And how did that feel? That must have been that's the naffest question anyone can ask. How did that feel, Phil? Maybe I'll ask that in a different way. You reached the sort of the check. I didn't check where that qualifying was. Would that have been at Ponds Forge or would that have been at the Institute? Or
the Institute, yeah, all right. Three of
right. So you're in the city. You're going to the Crucible. It must have been kind of. Was it your best moment in the sport so far?
Yeah, and I think because I'd lost a number of close matches to get there in previous years. I played in quite a few of them, but they were for us, but it wasn't billed as one, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so it was sort of, I'd lost to 10-9, I think, as well to Sam Baird one year. I'd lost to Marcus Campbell when I was about 19 or 20, I think. I'd lost a couple of matches to get there, so to finally get over the hurdle was the biggest thing in my career. I was probably 27, 28 at the time. So as the years tick by, I'd have been on the tour for sort of 8-9 years. You sort of think maybe I could be one of them players who never plays at the Crucible, but thankfully I qualified then and obviously went on to play a couple more times there.
I think you lost a really close one to Mark Williams as well, a 10-9er. Do you remember that?
I lost to Mark Williams 10-9, yeah. I can remember the shot like it was right now that I missed, that he left me a bed in the middle. I'm sure he went up bank, but
I love it when players. I mean, that's a bad one for you, but when players remember individual shots, I'm not a snooker player, but I can still somehow sort of get in that mindset of what a nightmare it would be.
Yeah, I can remember the shot from that. Yeah, you remember the odd shots over a few years. I think I played Williams once.
I've heard players say before that that's the worst game to lose all season. Is that how you felt the last qualifier?
I suppose it depends how you've lost it. Some of them have been really hard, some not so. Sometimes with the World Championship, because it was the end of the season and you got 2 months off, it was almost like there's almost half a relief. Season's over, if you know what I mean, and I can go and have a holiday and have some time off. Or there is an element of relief, I think, at the World Championship.
And that Crucible, did it live up to expectations? As you must have been thinking about that for an awful long time.
Yeah, it did. I played Mark Allen first year I got there, didn't I? And I played really well. Mark had won the Masters that year. and he said some nice words after that. I remember. Yeah, and it was sort of first time there. You're off on your day. You're not expecting miracles, but I played well, so no, I was happy, and I think the moment I didn't, the match ended and I went home, I was desperate to get that back there again.
Yeah. And I mean, I suppose this is the thing with coming through qualifying. You're never going to get easy matches, are you? But you have had some stinking draws.
Do you think? I don't know who I can't remember. Do you know what? In terms of the
Well,
qualifiers, I think
no,
I
no. I
have
mean,
beaten.
I mean, Judd Trump was the next one, wasn't it? And then Anthony McGill.
Oh,
Maybe not the most elite player, but
yeah,
a tough Crucible player for sure.
yeah. Obviously, Judd had won like 5 or 6 comps that year.
Yeah.
He was just unbelievable. I remember when I played, he looks like he's playing in the front room or something like. He just unfair, and I was obviously only my second time there, and yeah, and he just looks. He probably, if you speak to these players, when other players say it about, they probably think, "Oh no, I felt nervous." Do you know what I mean? It's the perception you see, I think. But McGill, we had a good match. It wasn't a great standard, but it was a good match. It was a bit back and forth, sort of. So and it was also quite nice to play someone like we used to Anthony's dad, who sadly passed away, I think last year, or earlier this year maybe. He was a lorry driver, and he used to go from Glasgow to Birmingham, so obviously that past Stoke on the M6. My dad used to drive me to a lay-by, and I used to jump in the back of Ant's dad's lorry and kip in the back. He'd take me all the way up to Scotland, and we'd play non-stop for a week, and then the next week he'd come back down and the lay-bys, like, and then it was nice. I think it was just a nice thing that we played at the Crucible a lot of years later. Good memories with Ant as a kid.
Yeah, that's lovely. I mean, we actually had one of the questions in from listeners from Rob here. This sounds appropriate now. Do you socialise much with other snooker players away from the game? Who are your best friends on the tour? So it sounds like you go a long way back with some guys.
Yeah, obviously you've known some of them since you were 8, and I think as you become a pro, you become a little more single-minded. You don't mix as much, certainly in your 20s. But then I think as you get older, you relax a little bit more and don't. You also get on with everybody. I'm not a massive. I always tend to have somebody with me from home when I go away from snooker. So it's like I have a friend or my mum a lot of the time. So I don't, I'm not in need of a sort of snooker player to go out for some food or anything. So they're not. There's not really a singular one that I'm closer to than any of the others. And outside of snooker, I don't overly mix with snooker player. I've got my own friends at home. I don't. It's not really my thing to sort of work and pleasure. I don't have a tournament lose and go out on the lash with snooker players. It's just it's just the way I am, I suppose.
That's probably quite healthy to have quite two separate worlds, as it were.
Yeah, I think work and pleasure don't mix too well, do they? So, yeah, I've got my mad mates I can go out with every now and again.
And that sounds nice that you take your mum around. Has she been a great support over the years?
Mum's gone everywhere with me. I couldn't have done. Well, I wouldn't be playing now if it wasn't for mum. Like, financially supported me, sort of emotionally as a mum, sort of supported me, and yeah, I don't think she's missed a tournament other than the odd trip, other than trips to China. She come the last one with me, but she hasn't missed tournaments for years. Since I was a kid. Well, even as a kid, she hasn't missed snooker ever. I don't think.
Does she like the game, or is it just for you?
I think it's a bit. I think she wasn't in love with snooker before I was, if you know what I mean. But as it sort of became my passion, all the way through, because there's a lot of downtimes that you need picking up off the floor, really, isn't there? So, yeah. So yeah, it's just been a sort of the only sort of person who's from the start to the end, if you know what I mean. That has just been by my side.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, so, we've heard over the years from players that say, "Oh, their parents can't bear to watch." Like, not only can they can't come to tournaments in some cases, and if they can, they just can't watch. I mean, would your mum be in the sort of the backstage area? Would she be out in the arena? Would she watch every frame?
She can watch. Yeah, she just tends to get out the way, get up the top, sort of thing, and she can watch right through. She's never had that. She says she feels nervous, sometimes feels sick. I mean, that's just normal wanting someone else to win. When I go and watch the football, I feel nervous and sick too. But never mind, it's not my child, is it? It's just a football team. But so yeah, but she's able to watch and share, and that is good.
Who's your football team?
Oh, I can't tell you that. No, I go to the Vale. Do you know Port Vale?
Do I know
Vale Park myself?
Do I know Port Vale? Yeah, I've come across them. There's nothing wrong with Port Vale, Colonel.
A lot of it's what? Sorry,
there's nothing wrong with Port Vale.
No, they're doing all right this year. We went down last year for one, so no. It's like the only club not to be named after a place, isn't it, or something?
Is that right?
Yeah. The only. I don't know whether Arsenal was as well. Is there a place in London called Arsenal now?
There is actually.
Vale's the only one that's not left.
Well, I think it was Woolwich Arsenal, wasn't it? Because they were a South London club going back a long, long time. Probably about a century now, but because some Tottenham fans, they always just still sort of mock them, don't they, and call them Woolwich. We're going off topic a little bit here, but on to our beloved football. But maybe go back to another great love of ours, snooker, which we're mainly here for. And yeah, I'm going to go a bit back to the brilliant piece that you wrote, Phil, and a great interview with yourself, Liam, earlier this year. And some of the quotes are brilliant. I mean, absolutely brilliant. The very first quote, which I think was great from you to start with, Phil, was you say the oddest thing about playing sport is when people ask you how the snooker's going before they ask you how you are. I struggle with that. It's strange. It's like, is that before me? I think I had mixed feelings about that, because I think if you come across most snooker players, you naturally would ask them about the snooker. I mean, tell us more about that. I'm interested by that quote.
I think that quote comes from me realizing that I don't know what realizing sort of people do just ask how's your game, how's the snooker going before they ask how you are. Where I think it was me realizing the differences in people. My mum would go, "How are you?" My real friends would go, "Are you okay?" sort of thing. Other people would go. So I think it was me just realizing that some people want to be attached with you because of snooker.
But those guys would know you better, I suppose, wouldn't they? It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think it's more sometimes when maybe I'm not feeling good, right? And say you're in a pub or something, and someone goes, "How's the snooker?" It's like, I'm really not bothered how the snooker is. To be honest, I feel like crap.
That's a good explanation. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so it's more coming from that stand that I used to think that there was a period of time where I got frustrated when people kept saying how's the snooker, just because I was like really low. And I've come through that. I understand it now that some people just go how's the snooker because it's a conversation opener, and it's really not meant in any kind of way. It's probably the problem's probably with me, if you know what I mean, me perceiving it to be like that.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I've got some more quotes from which I'll come to, which I think says a lot about you as well. But you strike me as someone that has a sort of pretty healthy balance between sort of snooker and life. Maybe you don't treat snooker as seriously as others. Is that because you've had issues off the table, or were you like that even when you were younger? It's just that nature of yours.
I've tried. It's something that I'm constantly trying to work on because actually snooker's been very at times unhealthy for me. I've judged my day and my self-esteem with snooker. In the past, I've failed to separate the two. So if I lose at snooker, that's a bad day. It's not a bad day, you know. Or if I lose at snooker, I basically attach my self-esteem to that. So I'm no good now. But actually, I'm an all right person. I lost a game of snooker. Do you know the separation between the two?
Yeah.
Sort of really tried to work on it. I still find it hard now because snooker. I don't do a lot in life other than snooker and things to try and improve my snooker. Whether that investment has been, I've had the return from what I've put in. I personally, I don't think I have, but not everybody can be absolutely elite at what they do. There's only so many places to be a top 4 player, if you like, or to be a world champion. So, with all the other issues and things, maybe I've balanced it out by being so dedicated.
I wonder if that's also hard the other way around. If snooker's going really well and people assume you're like buzzing about it, but it doesn't always marry up, does it? Sometimes you can be struggling and playing well, and it's hard, show that.
Yeah, sometimes snooker's actually. This sounds really bizarre, but when you're in a depressive type state, snooker can be quite good. I don't know why, because you're not. A lot of it, you undo yourself of snooker. Like if you feel great, you can go for one too many, or you can play too quick, or you can like sometimes that middle ground of just being kind of neutral is the best place to be snooker. Play snooker. Yeah. So feeling great isn't always that good, even though it is in your life. But it's not. I never played that well at snooker when I felt amazing.
It's interesting, isn't it? That's why this game and other games, but this game seems more especially, finding middle grounds is so difficult because nothing seems to make a lot of sense.
No, exactly. You're in a constant battle trying to bring yourself down or bring yourself up. So, but that's what we keep. Everyone comes back from all with snooker, so it's like everyone's got a love for it. So, and I'm the same as everyone else, really.
I suppose it's that you mentioned the word content earlier, which is, I think that's absolutely key in everything, really. Like you said, not everyone can be number one at everything. Very, very few people can be. So it's finding what you can be happy with. And, you've got a long time left in your career. It's not like you, I think I saw your interview at Q School. You're very young in the game still. But you're making a living and making a career, making a life out of something you love. So that's a huge positive.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people who can do that. And the mad thing is, like you say about not everybody can be number one. Do you know what? Sometimes if you are number one, they're not happy either.
Yeah.
So what are we chasing for? What I don't get. Why be on the rat race when you can never win it? There's no point. It sounds very sort of. I don't know what the word is, but you just got to sort of drive far if you like, just find your way through it the best you can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when it comes to numbers, number one or whatever, I mean, I think you said your highest ranking was 39, something like that. I always think when you think out of 39 out of 7 billion or whatever it is, it's not too bad, is it?
No, and you do have to remind yourself of that because there's so many people going, you've underachieved. There's so many, everyone's got an opinion about good, but the thing is, you might say I've underachieved, but there's got to be 38 others above you. Like it's like they could be underachieving, or the ones below you could be underachieving. So do they bump you down? I don't. Like, it's just, but you have to just go with facts with sport, and yeah. So just like I said at the interview before with like the Q School and that, I really just try and play snooker. I try and play snooker. I try to play it to the best I can, and I get really disappointed and down when I lose. But it only lasts for 2-3 hours now. It used to last for like days.
Mm.
I'd have never the club 2 days after, 5 years ago. I've been so like a baby.
Right, that's really interesting. I mean, you're very honest, and here's some more quotes from that Phil interview that I was really struck by. You say about snooker, it winds me up, it frustrates me, but that's just part of it. I've never played snooker for material things or money. I've never even played for results in a way. You watch me play sometimes, and you'll think, "Effing hell, no wonder he's not won anything." Because I'm just playing most of the time for still haven't sworn on this podcast, Phil. We know the only man that's sworn on this podcast. We all know that. No wonder he's not won anything, because I'm just playing most of the time for a feeling, how the game makes me feel. It's probably the wrong way, not a winner's way, and why I've maybe not achieved as much. But I'm probably more content with snooker than a lot of players. Being happy is okay. Why don't you play for money then? Most players say they do play for money.
I know I can't. Do you know the players who say they play for money? I'd love to ask them if when they're actually in the heat of the moment, as in playing out in the arena, say you're playing in a match day where you're on 10 grand and the winner gets 20. Do they? I don't know whether that. I've never played right and thought that if I win this, I get £10,000 more. I think I'd puke up in my chair if I thought that, and not through nerves, just through just the notion of that, whatever that is, like getting something from this. I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me. It's hard to explain.
Right. So when you hear other players sort of talk a lot about money, I mean, we heard it a lot, obviously, with Saudi recently, big money event. Do you think there's too much talk like that, or do you think that's sort of up to them?
That's up to them, and obviously to grow a sport's a business, and that, and for World Snooker, and in that sense, I understand the talk of money. Like we can't give our lives to something without money, can we? Like obviously we do need it to get through life, but I just I don't. People with rich like an amount of money that's rich. I don't know what you get more with. What do you need more with like 3 million and you got two? I don't. What do you do in your day that's different? I don't know what you do. You get up, you have your breakfast, you go to the club, you go to the gym or whatever, and you go home. Like what? You can have a nicer holiday. I don't even drive, so it's like I wouldn't even get a car. So there's just nothing in my life that's there's money. I don't.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't play. As long as I can, like you say, earn a living, get by, um, I just don't. Yeah, I don't get the chase for the money. Like I'd love to win a tournament, but it's not for the prize money. It's just you look back at all you. I don't. For instance, like say the free Crucible things. We talk about the free Crucible appearances. We don't talk about the amount of money I won 3 times.
Yeah,
it's the experience. It's the achievement. It's whatever that is. Not who cares? Like in 20 years' time, it's going to be double. So
I must admit, that's why I'm very, very, very rarely jealous of people with money, unless they travel. That's my thing. People say, "Oh, I've got absolute fortunes in life," and I went to Benidorm twice this year. I said, "What's the point of the money then?" That's just my mindset. But I mean, you talk about the future then a bit. I mean, I'm a bit loath to ask you specifically about ambitions, but I guess I will because I find them always interesting. I think our listeners will. Are they more specific ones? Are they just to get enjoyment out of the game? Do you think there's just one tournament particularly you like to play in well? Maybe the Crucible will take as a given getting there, but maybe another event you really like to do well in?
there was as a kid, I see massive dreams like as kids do. That's what we do. But obviously turned pro early, struggled my early years, and then from the big Crohn's flare up, my goals were sort of readjusted, if you like. I don't, and I did have. I remember I had 5 goals at the time when I was in hospital, because where I could tell you what they are. So one at the time, I'd only been a pro say 4 years. So was to be a pro for over 10 years was one. To make over 100 centuries in my career was another, which I've done. Play at the Crucible was another, which was 3. Make a 147 in a tournament, which I haven't done as a pro, but I've done in 2 events that are like that, the EPSB sort of things. I did one the other week, but I'd like to make a 147 as a pro, and the other was to win a ranking event. So I'm on like 3 out of 5. So if I come out with the other 2 by the end, I'll be absolutely ecstatic.
And yeah, I mean, short term, I guess it's just get back on tour. But I mean, I remember being struck when we spoke earlier in the year that you didn't sound too fussed either way. You were just looking forward to playing tournaments. Is that feeling the same, now? And you're just playing in what you can play and see where it goes?
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Just to get back on a tour is to get into the position that I could win an event one day. It's not. It's not to run round and say I'm a professional snooker player. Like, this just doesn't. That bit doesn't interest me. Just about self-fulfillment, sort of getting back on tour. It's a good life, and I didn't appreciate how good of a life it was in my early years. So it's sort of like I feel like it's a bit of a second coming. I've done 14 years as a pro. If I managed another like 10 and did say 25 years in like together, that would be amazing. But just day by day, just keep trying to practice, improve. The mad thing is, I'm better now than I was when I was 39 in the world. But there's probably loads of players better. It's bizarre, like snooker. So get back on tour, just keep putting myself in the positions and play for as long as I can. That's it.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. We've got another email here from a listener. Hi, everyone. He's in 2 questions here, snooker related first. How does Liam stay engaged with the practice? So much investment is needed that no one sees. It must take its toll. How do you keep it interesting?
I would say the best way to keep it interesting would be just be a bit inventive, try to think outside the box sort of thing. Especially solo practice. Obviously, you're playing someone, but solo practice, set yourself little goals, little targets, whatever your level is, just try and push a little bit more. I don't just be creative, I'd say, with different things.
I don't know if you still do, but you practice a lot with Jensen Kendrick, is that right?
Yeah, I practiced a lot. Obviously, he was on the tour the last 2 years, so, and I've known him since probably about 8 or 9 years ago. He come to this club, so yeah, spent a lot of time. And there was another player who had a brief spell as a pro called Brandon Sargent, who was a good player. They won the amateur. Could have done a little bit more in the game, but whatever. Sort of spent a lot of time with him practicing.
And the big question, second from Gareth here, which I think everyone is desperate to know: did you get Oasis tickets?
I got an Oasis ticket. Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant. That was the one. Yeah. This is the one. That's another song for the Manchester band. That's the question we wanted to know. Well done.
And I think got the 19th of July. I think is that the date.
Is that the Friday?
Yeah. I can't remember. Might be.
Sounds a bit like the one I'm going to, so I might see you there.
Bloody hell.
Well, if I'm rolling around somewhere in the mud, pick me up.
I can see a Hagen Highfield photo in our future, folks.
Love to.
Where's that one then? So where's that gig?
Manchester.
It's the Manchester one.
Manchester, July 19th. I think, yeah. Yeah, looking forward to it.
You love the you love the band, don't you? Obviously, tell us about your love for them. Come on.
Yeah, just mum liked them when I was young. I just always liked them, and always got. And then from we've got a little small venue called the Sugar Mill near us. I remember at the time when I was a kid, say 14, there was like, you know how you have like the nappy night nightclub thing.
Yeah.
You remember them, yeah? So we had a place called the it was at the time it was called Liquid, and over the road was the Sugar Mill. So all the kids I went to, they went to the indie club, which was the Sugar Mill or the night type club. And what happened was, I was 14, and we were going to the nightclub type place, and it was a foam party. And my mate, I don't know what happened, but he swallowed off the foam and ended up having to get carried out at like 14 years old. I don't know, made him poorly. So we ended up going over the road to Sugar Mill, and then that was it. Into indie music and different bands, local bands, and a lot of people played good bands played at Sugar Mill over the years. Loads of big bands when they were on the way up. You know, when they were playing small venues. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the Oasis. My actual favorite music is by Richard Ashcroft. I actually prefer the Verve, but I actually prefer his latest stuff on his own. Actually, yeah.
I don't know if they confirmed it, but he tweeted he's supporting.
I think he's supporting some of them, certainly in Wales.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope he's on the one I'm at. But he's at Wolverhampton in a couple of weeks, so I might go to there. He's amazing live, and it's really good. I went to the Wigan ones where it was like his homecoming, 25 years or something since Hague Hall. That was a good gig.
That's the music I grew up on as a kid, Blur and Space. I loved the album Tin Planet by Space. I don't know if you know that.
No, I'll have to have a listen.
Give it a listen, yeah.
Okay.
Phil Haig, I bet you 24 double deckers that the Sugar Mill had the stickiest walls.
You have to swim to the toilets.
I can see those walls. I can sort of feel those walls now.
Yeah. Good venue.
Bit of radio silence there, Phil. I think we're virtually out of questions. Aren't we? Let me tell you, you were right, but not by maybe as much as you think. It's Trump 22, Selby 17 in the head-to-heads. Now, some statisticians won't count some of those, but we haven't got time now to strip out the ones that maybe are one-framers. So that's the Q tracker totals. Trump 22, so pretty close, but yeah, Judd does win it.
Yeah. Oh well. But they're both great players, aren't they? They're never going to be miles apart from each other. So, but
yeah, if you've got a winning record against Mark Selby, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
Well, shall we let you go then? I think, Liam, you've been an absolutely marvelous guest. We've actually been quite honest there, Phil. We said about an hour, and we've done that, so a little bit over. But enjoy the rest of your day. You probably get some more practice in, and will you come back and see us again one day? Yeah, we hope you will.
Of course, we will. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Liam. We're just going to wrap up some news now, so feel free to go. But yeah, it's been a real pleasure.
Cheers, mate. Thanks. So,
all the best to you. What a smashing guest there. Liam Highfield joining us on Talking Snooker. He's now away to get some more practice in. And, well, that was lovely, Phil, wasn't it? He's still listening, so we've got to say nice things now. We are going to anyway, Liam, of course. He was, well, I think we always say, don't we, our snooker players are very honest. And, well, that was crystallised by that very, very honest chat there with Liam, which I think we'll all take a lot out of.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, if you haven't read that interview that Nick's mentioned a few times, I had a chat with Liam before the World Championship qualifiers this year, I think. Just give it a Google, it's on Metro. And yeah, I've really enjoyed chatting to him then, so I've been looking forward to getting him on here ever since. And didn't disappoint. Yeah, really interesting guy. And yeah, he's a really, really good player. I mean, it shows we talk about the standard so much that he's off tour at the minute, but I'm sure he'll be back on in the near future because he's a really great player.
I should be your PR man, shouldn't I? When the journalism eventually dries up, and it will happen. Maybe that's in my future. We've got loads to wrap up, and we'll do that in a couple of moments' time. We should say here, you are listening to Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. The Wuhan Open is well underway, Phil, and as we're speaking, we're actually into day 3, and loads happening. All the results, of course, on snooker.org and WST. We're not going to go through all of them, partly because it's already a pretty long episode here, but some highlights, and there have been some real ones so far. Day 1 on Sunday then, what a win for Jackson Page. He beat Neil Robertson 5-1. Cracking win, Page finishing in style there with a break of 102. Of course, that's the recent English Open winner then, Neil Robertson, so really good win. And also really good win for Stan Moody, edging out Ryan Day 5-4. A couple of big highlights there from day 1. Day 2 yesterday, Monday, Noppon Siankam beat Jimmy White 5-1. Great from Jimmy to still be playing these events, of course, but he went out there. John Higgins beat Fan Zhengzhi 5-4. Well, Higgins was 3-0 and 4-2 down there, made breaks of 61, 66 and 67 in the last 3 frames to win it. I love it that he calls it divine intervention, Phil, because his cue was damaged, got a new cue. And I've got if I win the Tony Meo Trophy next week, that's coming up, I'm definitely going to put it down in some way to divine intervention. But I'll say that even if it's something really minor, like my train from Tamworth was 3 minutes late and I ran across with my coffee and I managed to make the train. It was divine intervention. That's the way I did it. But that was great. And then another one as well to mention, Zach Surtees. This is yesterday, Monday, beating Robert Milkins 5-4 from 4-1 down. Real good one for the statisticians here. 3 successive breaks of 74. That's kind of crazy, really, in odds terms. 3 breaks in a row there in successive frames, and he won that match. So well done to him. And we're on to today, day 3, Tuesday. You got your video printer hat on, Phil. Loads going on.
Well, yeah, just before we came on air, I watched the end of Zhao Xintong and topsy-turvy game, all sorts going on. And Zhao won it 5-4 late into the decider. And that was just one of 3 deciders on the road. Dwayne Jones picked up a great win over Pang Junju 5-4 and Wu Yiza 5, Jamie Clark 4. So plenty going on. Murphy going through, Hawkins beating Moody. Ben Wollaston continuing a great run of form. He knocked out Gary Wilson on Sunday, I think, and then he's beat Elliot Slesser on Tuesday. So yeah, Ben's in great nick at the minute. He's picking up some very good results. Whereas there's a few sort of higher up the rankings that are really struggling. You mentioned Zach Surety's win over Milkins. Milkins really struggling. Gary Wilson's losing a fair few games. Tom Ford's, I think I saw the other day, he's only won 1 game this season. So there's a few people slipping down the rankings and a few people just below who are in good form and ready to pounce. So yeah, we're ongoing, but a lot of big names already out in Wuhan. Obviously, we had Ronnie pulling out just before the event, Mark Allen for a family illness, so we wish him and his family all the best. And Dave Gilbert pulling out because of his back injury, which is playing up sciatica he's got. So and Selby was out in the qualifiers as well. So there's chances for people to have a good run this week. Judd Trump's still there, so he may well just win it as normal. But there's plenty of good opportunities for a run with a lot of big names missing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we should say there's some really good matches coming up even today, Tuesday. So there's a chance you'll listen to us before these happen, or at least you might want to catch up on the action. Judd Trump's got Anthony McGill coming up, the aforementioned Anthony. Well, Zach Surtees' reward is a match against one of the greats, John Higgins. And looking through here, Ding has been in good form, hasn't he? I noticed you flagged up. He's looking the part so far. He's got one Sejun. Si Joy He, of course, we really enjoy watching any time at the moment. He's got Martin O'Donnell. And then Jack Jones, Jack Lisowski. Goodness, that's a real interesting one there. Wouldn't like to call that one. Ranks 14 against 19 there. That's some really really interesting snooker to come. Zhang and Hossein Vafai as well. So yeah, loads of good matches. This is the last 32 stage, isn't it, Phil? So I think I'm right in saying so. We're moving on a pace of this tournament, and we'll review it, of course, when it's all concluded. It will come to an end this Sunday, and then we'll be on air soon after. We're talking snooker to wrap it all up. Well, one tournament that has wrapped up, Phil, we should say, which is the Australian Women's Open at the Mounties in Sydney. And this is proper breaking news. Just happened on a Tuesday afternoon in Australia, Tuesday morning for us. Mink Nutcharat winning the title. She's won it for the 2nd time in her career. beating On Yi 4-3 in the final. On Yi was a defending champion there, wasn't she? But it's a smashing win for Mink, her 8th world ranking event success. The deciding frame went all the way to the black ball. Real drama there, Phil. So congratulations. It looked for a while, didn't it, like it was going to be a Mink On Yi final, and you couldn't call that for love nor money. Maybe not a surprise it went all the way, eh?
No, yeah, they were the two standout players in the draw, and yeah, although Mink only won her semi-final 4-3, I noticed. So not a complete foregone conclusion, but she came through that, and then yeah, right to the last ball at the final frame. So yeah, great effort from her. There were some big breaks going in. I noticed that Onyi knocked in a 130 odd, 133, I think it was. So yeah, I mean those two are excellent players. We know that. And congratulations to Mink. Yeah, they could play a lot of times, and I think a lot of times it would go to a deciding frame. Not much between them. But yeah, Mink's the winner this time.
She certainly is. Filling in a little bit more on the quarter-final results and semi-final results. Phil mentioned that tight semi. Well, in the quarter-finals, Mink Nutcharat had a pretty comfortable win, 3-0 over Jessica Woods. It was Onyi 3, Joey Tome 0, and Narucha Foemful 3, Lily Meldrum 1. While Narantuya Bayasayakan came through 3-2 against Chung Yi-ting. And in the semi-finals, it was On Yi 4, Narucha Foemful 0. And that close semi you mentioned, Mink Nutcharat 4, Narantuya Bayasayakan 3. And then in the final, Mink Nutcharat beating On Yi 4-3. So congratulations to her. And I think it's the Masters, isn't it, the next big one coming up? I noticed it in London. And I was thinking I might possibly try and get along to that if I can. That's coming up next month. And, well, we move on, Phil, and International Championship qualifying, which has taken place since we were last on air. And, well, plenty of big names did make it through to the tournament, which is taking place next month. But I noticed Jack Lasowski had a mighty scare against Bulsu Revez. He was 5-3 behind there. That could have been a real scalp for Bulsu Revez. But then Jack really found his scoring boots just in the nick of time, breaks of 69, 59 and 108 for a 6-5 victory. And I know you were casting your eyes across that qualifying, so no doubt you've got some more results to flag up for us.
Yeah, I mean, that was, again, we mentioned Bulsu Revez a fair few times on here, but he's competing really well with the top players. So impressive from him. Yeah, there are a fair few shocks. Matt Selt losing to Andrew Higgins 6-5, bit of a surprise. Milkins, I mentioned before, he's in shocking form, really. He lost to Stuart Carrington, who Liam was bigging up.
Yeah.
So 6-4 to Stewart there. He won't be off to that tournament. I suppose a big one here, Luca Brissell. He looked like he turned a corner a little bit, but losing 6-3 to Zhang Jun is not continuing around that corner. Tom Ford, I mentioned, okay, he lost 6-2 to Stan Moody, who is picking up results on a regular basis. Marco Fu 6-5 to Liu Haoshan. There was one more I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, this was it, because this was an unusual situation. Liam Davies was supposed to play Jamie Jones, and Jamie Jones, I saw him post on Instagram that he just pulled out to sort of look after his mental health at the minute. He's just struggling a little and he wanted some time off. So Daniel Womersley was a very late replacement to play Davies, and then he won 6-2. So often the way, isn't it? I know Mark Joyce has just gone over to Wuhan to replace Ronnie, and he won his first 2 games. So just coming in late with no expectations can often, it's a recipe for success somehow, but it does work. A couple of others, Hayden Pinay beating Stephen Maguire 6-2. He hadn't had much success so far on tour since he came on. So very good result for him there. And Ben Merton 6-4, Graham Dott I'd written down. So that was a nice win for the young Belgian. And there's a few other results knocking around, but they're the ones that caught my eye.
Well, yeah, very nice roundup. And all those results, of course, are on our good friends at snooker.org and also on WST. And that will be the way you can continue to follow events in Wuhan, of course, in the coming days. And no doubt, Phil, you'll have good stuff as well on your social media. And the event will, of course, continue to be shown on Eurosport and Discovery. And Phil, let's move on then. And the latest Q Tour event 3 in Sweden. We mentioned it, didn't we, with our guest Liam earlier. Well, he didn't emerge the winner, but of course, as we mentioned, Zhao Xintong did. He is returning to snooker, having served his ban following the sport's biggest match-fixing scandal, where he made a maximum break in his match against 14-year-old Sean Liu. And then he beat a number of good players. I noticed he beat Peter Lyons along the way, actually. But in the final, he beat Craig Steadman 4-3. Breaks of 1-1-2, 1-3-6, and 82, only the best of 7. So that man's got his scoring boots on, Phil. We did wonder what sort of Zhao we'd see. We're obviously quickly seeing one that's rediscovering something like his maybe not very best, but very good snooker form.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, he's coming in right at the start because obviously these are done off sort of Q School rankings, and but he's come off with nothing, so he comes right in at the early qualifying round. So he had 7 matches before getting to the final, and he only dropped 3 frames across those 7 matches. So, it's not a surprise he's on a different level to a lot of these players. But there are some really good players knocking around on these Q Tour events, and he was beating them all pretty convincingly. The first player to make a maximum on Q Tour. So a lovely bit of history for him. And then, he didn't beat Craig Steadman convincingly. Steadman's such a solid player, real steady performer, either on the tour or at the top end of the amateur game. Takes some beating, and he did there. So it was a decider that Zhao needed 82 in the decider. But yeah, he clearly has been, as Liam mentioned earlier, he's clearly been working hard while he's been away from the sport. And he could rattle through some of these Q Tour events if this is anything to go by. It seems more and more likely that we'll see him back on tour next season, which is going to be fascinating.
It certainly is. And as you say, sort of Steadman himself had a couple of nice breaks in that final. So a real competitive one. But yeah, Zhao getting over the line and winning that event. And, well, have you got anything more snooker to say? Or shall we? I can see you suggesting no. So let's move on to any other business. And, let's stick on snooker matters, Phil. It's the old Tony Mio, Haig against Metcalf. You're probably starting as favourite. I don't mind admitting that. But not much in it. I mean, I wouldn't put the mortgage on it. But underdogs can win snooker matches.
No, there's nothing in it. I think what the 2 I won was 4-2 and 4-3, and you won 4-3. So very little to choose. And yeah, it feels more than a year ago in Manchester that time. It's a long time ago, but I've been waiting for it for a long while.
And I shall try and remember to bring the bloody thing. I have to do that. What we're missing, an arm, isn't it? Because of a house move or something.
It was the cue, I think.
The cue. Oh, that's not important for a snooker player. It's okay. They can do without that. I'll bring that along, and we'll see how it goes. And of course, we'll try and record it, won't we? That's the thing. We normally do an episode. That's tradition, so we'll continue that. Try and find a quiet corner in the club when we head up to Dave Gilbert's place next week for the Tony Mio Trophy, the 4th instalment. Get it? Can we call it prestigious now? That's
I don't see why not.
It's famous. We can call it what we want, I suppose. It's our event. But there's famous. Well, it's getting that way. A lot of people are sort of talking about it, and people are saying, of course, we have timed it quite well. They always had it. They time the seniors well. Jason Francis always does those well. We're taking the leaf out of the book. We're doing it at a time when international break. We're not doing it during Wuhan, so those big stars over there don't have to worry about any competition. Well, I think it's going to work at a good time. Not on telly, people asking. Behind closed doors affair, but no doubt we'll probably have the odd score update, and it'll be done amicably, won't it?
Absolutely. Always,
we'll still be talking afterwards. We'll be on speaking terms, even if it goes to a fluked black in the decider.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and he's expected to be there. World number 19, David Gilbert, did say it will be an honour to present the trophy at the end of the game, but I warned him that he hasn't seen either of us play yet, so whether he'll consider it an honour then or not, but he believes it to be now, so we've got that to look forward to.
He didn't use the word honour about that, did he?
He did.
He needs to get out more than the old Dave. Never mind, we'll see. Right, what else is happening? International break, thank heavens. We could do with another one of those, Phil. I'm campaigning for a new one in December. Are you joining me on that? Not enough for me.
Let's just have Premier League breaks from international football.
Another week of high-octane football coming our way. Pakistan v England Test Series underway, of course. I must admit I've not caught any of the action visually yet, but seems like a bit of a tough start for England from what I've seen, Phil. I don't know how it's going today so far, but it looks like they piled on a few runs, the old host there.
Yeah, they passed 500 before while I had it on earlier. So yeah,
Right.
556 all out. Pretty impressive.
Bloody hell. Well, that's about, well, so to find any kind of foothold in this game, England. And well, that's about it. I think on the older sporting front, we'll look forward to the Tony Meal. Look forward to the west of Wuhan, or maybe even the rest of Wuhan, Phil. If I'm starting to do tongue twisters like that, we better just get off the bloody air.
Yeah, the only other sport I was watching the start of the World Grand Prix darts from Leicester, which is a bit of a shame now. I mean, Leicester's fine, but it was always extra special in Dublin. I really liked that. But great start to the tournament last night on Monday. Rob Cross knocking Littler out, and a crack between Humphreys and Bunting. So that's on all week if you fancy a bit of double in action. And I'm actually going to play a bit of snooker in Budapest. I'm off to Budapest tomorrow, and spoke to Bukshu Revez for a suggestion of a club. So he told me where to go and play. So I'll get my practice in for the Mio in Hungary.
Bloody hell. I'm not sure this falls into the category of mind games or just... No, it's probably not. It's probably just a nice, healthy game of snooker you're having in Budapest, isn't it, really? I can't analyse everything like this. Great. What a city. Lovely. Buda and Pest, of course, separated by the river. So that's always my one Budapest line that I drag out. I recommended those baths, didn't I, Chief? If you get a chance.
I've been before. I've been to those big, like, open air ones.
Oh, they're bloody wonderful, aren't they? Yeah.
No, it's a great place. So looking forward to that 3 nights there. So but I'm going with 2 pals who enjoy a terrible game of snooker. So we'll go and knock a few balls about for a bit.
You'll be at home then, won't you? If they enjoy a terrible game of snooker. We had a great guest in Liam Highfield. We're most grateful to you for setting it up. I know you've had a couple of good old chats with Liam in the past, so that was brilliant. He was really good value. We wish him well for the coming season. And I salute you and say we've done nearly an hour and a half, which is sort of ludicrous, but who cares? We're into the 100. Oh, I didn't do it last time, but guess what episode number was our last one?
Oh, I've not even seen, actually. 118, is it in 180?
180! Oh, that's it. We're now on 181, typically late for me. Never mind. But yeah, we're going to be at 200 next year, all being well.
Incredible, yeah.
Blimey. Well, all the best to you, sir. See you next time. We will, in fact, genuinely bring you our next episode on location. And yeah, may the best man win.
Absolutely, yeah. No, snooker will not be the winner, but we'll do our best to make it the winner.
Snooker will be the loser, let's be clear. But one of us will emerge the winner of the Tony Mio. See you next time for that. And have a great time in Budapest, you lucky old rascal. And I shall have to make do with Hackney for the next few days. But we'll enjoy some relatively pleasant autumnal weather. So I hope that continues. And you are listening to the Weather Channel here before we go off air. You're not. You're listening to Talking Snooker. And your company has been most appreciated. We're going to sign off now. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Keep your thoughts coming. TalkingSnooker@yahoo.com or tweet us at Talking Snooker. For now, from your old friends, Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf, cheerio.